Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Our first story is a short one, but bloody hell, the title on it is from No Name Throwaway from the TrueOffMyChest subreddit. It says he wants to call off my divorce because my cancer treatment was successful. And the update came 3 years after the original post. It said, when I was diagnosed with testicular cancer, he filed for divorce because he said it would be too much to take care of me. In my province, you have to live separately and apart for 1 year before a divorce is granted. Since he left, I've had surgery and chemotherapy, and my latest checkup shows no evidence of disease. When he found that out, I don't know how, he applied in court to withdraw the divorce application. He told me we can stay married since I'm no longer sick, and was actually shocked when I blocked the divorce withdrawal petition through my own lawyer. I don't want to be married to him after what he did. The first commenter said to OP, well done, you found his true nature, he can't undo that. Commenter says, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. And another commenter says to OP, generally best to remove all of the cancer. Another one which OP replies to saying, playing devil's advocate. Maybe this is because if you passed, he didn't want to assume liability to the insurance companies for your significant medical bills. As your spouse, he'd likely be on the hook for those, likely or if you were divorced. OP says, I think you're assuming I'm American. I live in Canada and I didn't get any medical bills. There are no insurance companies involved, just MSI, which is the provincial healthcare. Someone replies saying, my god, it must be so nice not to worry about that, but alright, yeah, sounds pretty douchey of your husband. Another commenter says, I'm going to guess from this, the divorce wasn't a case of we divorce on paper so medical bills don't screw our family over. As such, what an arse move. Dump them, no empathy. OP says my province covered everything. My only bill was for the TV to be hooked up in my hospital room after surgery. All my medical stuff was covered by MSI. Commenter says, guess bro didn't take sickness and in health part very seriously, did he? Not everyone adds to their wedding, but it's usually what's expected of a spouse. Commenter says, wait, how did you even get testicular cancer? Don't you need testicles to get it? OP quotes that saying, might be a family history since 2 of my uncles have also had it. And he quotes the don't you need testicles to get it and says, yes, why'd you ask? A commenter replies saying, so you're gay? And OP says, yes, I am. Oh, these comments, man. I mean, what the hell? It says it in the story. Another commenter says, nurses are trained to cancel the recently diagnosed spouses of men about this. Men leave their sick partners at a far higher rate than women. OP says I was warned about this by the medical staff after my diagnosis, and I naively thought it would never happen to me. There's absolutely no coming back from that, is there? I mean, how would OP ever look at their partner the same again? If God forbid, OP was to get ill again in any form, how would he be able to trust his partner? Absolutely not. There's just no way you can look at that person the same way again. I don't believe you can. So it was 3 years later that OP came back into the post and says, my divorce was made official yesterday. It's over. 4.5 years of hell and being in limbo, and now it is over. Last night was probably the best sleep I've ever had in years. Maybe only second to the day I was told there was no evidence of disease. I feel like shouting from the rooftops because I'm free. I was diagnosed with testicular cancer on August 30th, 2021. 7 days later, my ex-husband told me he was leaving me because it would be too much to take care of me and he didn't sign up to be a nurse. When I had my first appointment with the oncologist a few days after my diagnosis, I was given a warning about men leaving their spouses when there's an illness. But I never thought it would happen to me. Every person in my support group who was married to a man had it happen to them too. It was eye-opening. I spent almost a year going through treatment. I had surgery, I had chemotherapy, and it almost killed me, but in August of 2022, I was told there was no evidence of disease. I don't know how he found out, but when he did, he wanted to call off the divorce because I had gotten better. He was absolutely shocked when I moved forward with the divorce and did everything he could to drag it out. I'm so glad the court finally saw through his games, and now the divorce was made official. 4 years and 6 months after he left. I haven't seen or spoken to him in years, and I don't plan to ever again. Still, no evidence of disease. I got a great new job with the provincial government. I'm planning a vacation for my 40th birthday. Most importantly, I'm free. The top commenter on this one said, I remember you. Happy you got rid of both cancers. Commenter says, oh wow, so men do this to other men, not just women. Would you have left him if he'd got cancer? Opie replies, quoting, would you have left him if he got cancer? And Opie says, no, never in a million years. The thought that someone, including me, would leave when their spouse got sick never even crossed my mind. When I had my first appointment after my diagnosis, and I was warned about men leaving their spouses, I thought they were mistaken and just plain wrong. I was humbled a few days later. Commenter says, I was pretty sure you wouldn't have. You're a good man, and another good man will be lucky to have you. Commenter replies saying, did he continue to try and reconcile during the divorce process? Opie says yes, he dragged the divorce out for years. Commenter says to Opie, okay, I saw that you don't have to pay any medical bills. Did you at least were able to charge him for alimony and get any assets from them? Opie says, I didn't end up owing him spousal support, thankfully, and our assets were divided 50-50 between us. Another commenter says, congratulations on your divorce and on the no evidence of disease, and happy early birthday as well. Also, sorry you had to deal with such a homophobic asshole on your last post. You didn't deserve those comments at a time when you were struggling. Opie says, thanks. I know which comments you're talking about and I did report them, but nothing happened, so I ended up just ignoring them and focusing on all the positive ones. Now, firstly, I'm glad that Opie is doing so much better. Good on them. And for, not backing down on this divorce. I don't know how you would have done anyway, to be quite honest. Like I said in the first part of the post, I don't know how you'd look at someone like that the same way again. I was just like, what was the partner expecting for Opie just to go back to normal? Like, he's better now, so we're good. It's just staggering. He abandoned Opie during chemotherapy, watched him go through surgery and treatment completely alone. That's not something you can just walk back into the relationship on, because it basically tells you who you are as a person. But it was the fact that he was genuinely surprised that Opie blocked the withdrawal as well. But again, the very end of this showed what he was like as a person anyway. 4.5 years of dragging it out. So even the divorce had to be on his terms in some way. But once again, Opie came out the other side cancer-free, employed, and finally sleeping properly. Going to be celebrating their 40th birthday in a big way by the sounds of it. Good on them. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit, and it says, am I the arsehole for not going to my parents' wedding? My friends told me to make a Reddit account just for this, because this is so weird and no one knows if I'm in the right. So my 26 female parents, both 50, got married when I was 5. And I was the flower girl. Around when I was 10, they got divorced, which no one saw coming because they never fought. I feel like I have to mention my parents are both very wealthy and kept finances separate, and so it was an easy divorce and obviously they could pay for it. When I was about 17-ish, they decided to get back together. Me being 17 was overjoyed and was a bridesmaid at their second wedding. I really hope you see where this is going, but they ended up separating again. They didn't tell anyone and didn't get a divorce, but we all knew they were separated. And 3 years later, they wanted to renew their vows, in which I was asked to buy a nice dress for the occasion. Surprise, they got divorced again, and only 3 months after their renewal. After that, I just sort of lived my own life because I wasn't exactly thrilled at whatever they were doing, and honestly, really over it. So a few days ago, I got an invite in the mail to my parents' 3rd/4th wedding, after 6 years, and so I called my mum about it. She was super excited and told me I was old enough to be a maid of honor and that she wants to buy me a $1,500 dress. That's a solid no from me. I told her I'd be a maid of honor, but I'm either going to wear the original bridesmaid's dress, which is a cream color, or the other nice one I got, which is brown, because I'm not buying a $1,500 dress. She freaked out and told me that those don't match the color scheme, pink and green, and that she knows I can afford it. Which is true. I got an inheritance from my grandfather's passing. However, when my fiance and I moved in together, he made it clear he didn't want me to be paying for most things and he wants to do it 50-50. So we got a small apartment that he could afford to pay his share of, and all my extra money is in savings and college fund because we want a large family of 5 to 7 kids, and they are, well, expensive. So I reminded my mum of that and told her that I would also like to use my money on other things that won't be worn once, and I'll have to buy a new one every 3 to 6 years. My mum called me a spoiled brat and that I'm wasting my privilege. I have no words, and that I'm telling her I won't be a part of my own parents' wedding. I told her that I was going to be willing to show up to the wedding and not be the maid of honor, but at this point I'm not showing up at all, and told her to call me when they get their next divorce. Oh, cheeky. I hung up and got a slew of nasty emails from my family throughout the day, and my friends are divided on if I made the right call with the premise that they are my parents. Am I the arsehole? Bloody hell, so wedding 1, she's 5 in the cute flower girl moment. Wedding 2, she's 17 and a bridesmaid. Genuinely happy for them. Vow renewal, she buys a dress and they divorce 3 months later. And now round 4 comes around and mum wants her to drop $1,500 or quid or whatever currency it is on that wedding. I couldn't help but chuckle to myself that OP's basically filled every role in the wedding so far. I think the next wedding she's going to be the officiant. You know, if she genuinely wants you there in this dress, she can simply pay for it herself. Being able to spend money doesn't mean you should. OP's saving for kids, living within the budget she and her partner agreed on together. You know, they're just being responsible adults. Something that her parents might want to try at some point, right? Bloody cheeky so-and-sos. But a commenter says, not the arsehole. If they're both well off, why can't they just buy the dress for you? It's their nth wedding, and she wants you as the maid of honor, so it makes sense for her to just get the dress for you. Another commenter says, not the arsehole 100%. What the fuck? Who marries and divorces the same person multiple times? You're completely in the right not wanting to spend that much money for a one occasion dress, when they most likely will divorce again and you're gonna need the money with so many kids planned. Opie says, I'm starting to think it's because no one else wants to get with them. Another commenter says, I'm a lawyer. I've divorced a couple on 3 separate occasions who married each other 3 times. I recently heard that they were thinking of getting back together. It works for me. Commenter says, my in-laws have been married to each other 3 times. Who knows, man? Who knows? The commenter says, not the arsehole. I'm sorry, but once it's the 3rd to 4th time to the same person, it's no longer a special event or moment. That's just a massive display of stupidity. It's totally reasonable that if they are doing this every 5 years or so, to say that either they really should not be together or that they really want the attention. So to me, this situation reads as 2 people are not compatible but can't stand not having someone to give them attention. If she lets you go, I recommend a book on divorce as a wedding gift. I think they need it. Opie responds saying, or maybe a book on self-love. Commenter says, sounds like your mother doesn't want a marriage. She just wants the weddings. You sound exhausted by all this divorce and remarriage, and I can't blame you one bit. My sister was the girl who cried wedding, and by the time the 4th wedding announcement came, I was happy for her, but I was just so over it. Not the arsehole. Opie says, yeah, I'm happy for them. It's really, really weird, and I've never really seen them fight or be dysfunctional besides the multiple weddings, so it's hard for me to not want them together if you take all this wedding BS aside. Commenter says, info. Do your parents know you can be with someone without marrying them? Opie says, in one ear, out the other. Another one says, info. Which date do they use when celebrating their anniversary? Opie says, that's fairly simple. They actually use the day they first met, April 20th. They implemented that when they did the 2nd wedding. I thought Opie was going to say like they use all the dates or something and have some crazy celebration on each of those dates. Another commenter asks, do they reuse the same vows? Opie says, no actually. There are a couple of bits that get reused, but they keep promising each other different things, which makes sense because they couldn't uphold the previous ones. Another commenter says, not the arsehole. Been there, done that way too many times. Have I mentioned this is not normal? Are they Liz Taylor and Richard Burton? Opie says, you're like the 3rd person who's mentioned them. So it was 10 days later that Opie came back into the post and says, hi guys. First of all, thank you for all the attention and some of your comments were absolutely hilarious. My fiance and I had a field day going through all of them. A lot of people suggested just making my mum pay for the dress, but I was debating the suggestion of just being a guest. So a lot of you agreed with me just to not show up. I ended up calling my mum and was going to make a decision with however it went. She started off the conversation that she didn't need me to be a part of the wedding party because her and my dad were having trouble having the best people. AKA, no one will do it again, lol. So they were going to scratch that part of the wedding and it was all about them anyway. So I told them I was coming as a guest, and after I made plans with my cousin to give me a lift so I wasn't spending a single cent on going to their wedding. Now, my fiancé and I go over to their house for dinner once a month, so we went over there Saturday. As I mentioned before in a comment or two, my fiancé grew up financially insecure, and so I struggled with convincing him to do something nice for himself once in a while. I did, however, just convince him to spend part of our savings to do a really nice honeymoon in Greece since we are doing a small wedding. It took some pulling of teeth, but he now won't stop getting travel books and researching, and it makes me so happy to see him excited about this. It was a fairly pleasant dinner until my own wedding planning came up. I told him that we were pretty much set with the wedding, but we were having out details on Greece. My mum got visibly upset and excused herself, and my dad followed. I was pretty confused, but they came back and my dad calmly explained that my mum feels very hurt that I'd be willing to spend thousands of dollars on my honeymoon, but wouldn't shell out money for their wedding. I was pretty dumbfounded and said, well, we are willing to have an expense on the honeymoon because we are only getting married once. So yeah, I got kicked out of the house and uninvited from the wedding. Not super torn up about it, and this is now my fiancé's favorite story to tell. Happy holidays, y'all. Commenter says to OP, I seriously can't believe your mum is trying to overshadow your wedding with her fourth wedding, not even waiting for you to have your moment. Commenter says, sounds like the best outcome honestly, and I'm still laughing about your mother being shocked that no one wants to give her the full treatment for a fifth or whatever wedding. I have an aunt who's been married something like 8 times, and the last 2 she just did a quick stand-up wedding in a garden type thing, because it turns out that no one wants to shell out money or buy presents for your 5th wedding to yet another loser. Another commenter says, I'm glad you have a good sense of humor about this unhealthy situation. Sometimes that's the very best tactic in life. It's the Mr. Bennett philosophy from Pride and Prejudice. If you're lucky enough to be surrounded by absurd people, at least enjoy the show. Commenter says your parents are toxic and wild as fuck. I picture your fiancé just sipping tea while this was all going down. Your response to your mum's entitlement was perfection. Are they still invited to your wedding? Opie says that's currently what's up in the air. I'm leaning towards no because I know they're going to do something to ruin it. Fiancé is on the side of it's going to be perfect no matter what happens. He just really wants to call me his wife, lol, so he thinks it would bring quality entertainment. Another commenter says my late grandmother married and divorced my grandfather 13 times. No joke. Got so bad the state told her if they divorced again, she was prohibited from remarrying him. Enjoy Greece. Get some natural sponges and ignore your mum. Catch her at the next wedding. 13 times. Bloody hell. Another commenter says, honestly, it sounds like your parents desperately need to be the center of attention, and when they aren't, they either get married to each other again or get a divorce. Getting uninvited is for the best. Frankly, the rest of the family should stop indulging them, and I'd bet money this nonsense would stop. I suspect the reason they keep doing it is because they keep getting the levels of attention they crave. Commenter says, your parents are a Taylor Swift song. I was just left after this one, one of the commenters saying, divorced and married 13 times, and how do people have time for this? It just sounds so bloody exhausting, right? And can you imagine receiving an invitation to one of those weddings, like the 4th time or the 13th time or whatever, and opening that up and thinking, for fuck's sake, here we go again. You have to take another wedding gift. Bloody hell, asking the proper questions, ain't I? What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Our next story comes from a throwaway account from the relationship advice subreddit, and it says, years ago, I, 38 male, had a 1-week fling with my girlfriend's 29 female sister. Oh dearie me, 35 female, and she doesn't know about it. Will everything blow up if I tell her? Oh, for bloody hell's sake. Sorry about mistakes in English in advance, guys. I've started dating my girlfriend last December, and I really like her and I love her. Last weekend, I was invited to a barbecue on her parents' house and met the whole family, and amongst them, her sister. When I saw pictures of them both together on Instagram, I didn't recognize her because she's changed her hairstyle completely and dresses very differently, but once I met her in person, I identified her. In 2012, I won a prize at work consisting in a whole week of a vacation in a touristic place, and I met her in the hotel and we connected extremely well on a physical and intimate level and had a great vibe the whole week. Basically going to the beach, going out on nights and having sex for 6 days. We kept in contact for a time through Facebook, but later on she deleted her profile and we just stopped interacting completely, maybe in 2014 or so. When my girlfriend was introducing us, I almost froze for a moment, and I could see in her eyes that she also noticed and stuttered a bit when we both acted like we never met before the whole day. I could see her glancing at me at times, and I also have absolutely no doubt it's her. Same name, same voice, same smile, same tattoo. Must I tell my girlfriend about this? I mean, if I was her, I think I would have wanted to know something like this because it's not like a lonely kiss when we're in high school. But I also think it might hurt her to know, and it may also hurt her, and that's what I fear the most. I talked to my best friend about it, and he says I should never tell her, but I should also talk about it to her sister. I think it's one of those situations where you just need to talk about it to your girlfriend as soon as possible. Because I feel like it's one of those things that will absolutely come out one day, some way or another, and the longer you leave it, the worse it's going to sound, like you hid it, etc., and the whole thing will blow up. The commenter says to OP, talk to her. Don't talk to her sister. Chances are the sister already told her. You want to make sure she trusts you if she finds out through her sister and not you. Then she'll have reason to doubt you. Obviously it might cause some insecurities, but it was so long ago. I think if you say it right, do it in the right way, it shouldn't be an issue. OP says, I understand, and should I say in a casual way like, oh by the way, the other day I thought your sister was familiar to me, and I remembered later on that I met her once in 2012 during a vacation, etc. Or maybe like, listen, you need to know something that happened in a detailed way. I'm terrible at this. Commenter says, do not go to her sister, absolutely not. You tell her directly. Like you said, it was 14 years ago. Open with, hi, we need to talk, blah blah blah, okay, so I recognize your sister. 14 years ago, we had a bit of a fling, just for a week. We stayed in contact until 2014, and I haven't heard or thought of her since, until seeing her when I met her family. It was really a long time ago, but I wanted to tell you as to be honest and not hold something from you. Your friend is an idiot. You have to tell her, otherwise you're a liar. And for all you know, her sister could have already told her, and now she's just waiting for you to do the same. Do not, under any circumstances, reach out to her sister. That would be the worst thing you could possibly do. I have 3 sisters myself and a brother. If I were in her sister's shoes, I would 1,000,000% tell my siblings right away. And if their boyfriend reached out to have a secret convo with me on the topic, oh, my sibling is getting told, and I would tell them not to trust this man who tried to work things out behind their back. You and her sister aren't close friends. You don't know each other. It'd be so weird and inappropriate and gross to reach out to her. Please do not do that. Tell her right away unless you want to get dumped or divorced, because no healthy and long-lasting relationship is built on lying or withholding information pertaining to sleeping with their sibling. Lol. Hope you reply saying, okay, I completely understand, thank you. It's just that it's going to be a difficult conversation to have and I fear it might hurt her. But I guess I have to do it. Then said, well, it's decided and I'm going to tell her today later on when we have lunch together. I'm stupidly nervous like I've done something wrong. Opie says no, you didn't do anything wrong, it's just bad luck. Don't go into detail about how many times you did it or how amazing it was. Just give her the facts and tell her you felt she needed to know, since you love her and want to spend the rest of your life with her. It isn't a minor issue. She'll feel weird for some time, so just don't invalidate her feelings. Opie says thank you. Yeah, I will try to just state it and that I want to be honest about it, and that I will be there by her side whatever the emotions that come out of this are. I just hope that I'm not losing her because of one stupid week 14 years ago. I'm already on my way there, so wish me luck. Oh, bloody hell, I'm nervous. OP comes in with the update and says, today I had lunch with my girlfriend and gathered the courage to tell her about me and her sister back in the day. I feared that, as some people wisely pointed out, maybe her sister had already told her. Hey, I've met that guy years ago and had something with him. He didn't tell you about it. But turns out her sister didn't tell her anything. I tried to just state what happened back in 2012 in the most factual and brief way possible. and that even if she has a couple of pictures with her sister on Instagram, I didn't recognize her before meeting her in person the other day, and she thanked God she believed me. But also I could see how it was progressively affecting her, and she ended up crying about the fact that it even happened, and it completely broke my heart and made me feel extremely guilty. I know I'm doing the right thing not hiding stuff. Of course I understand that, but I'm devastated still over the fact that I'm hurting her so much. Well, she was embarrassed to be crying and wanted to leave the place, so I paid, picked up coffee to go, and we walked to the harbour and sat there to keep talking in a more solitary place. She started asking a lot of questions about very specific things like how many times, how was it, if I enjoyed it, if I felt something for her after that week, how many times we had messaged each other, if sex was better with her, and many more things that took me by surprise because I thought that maybe she'd want to know the less possible. And I know I did wrong, but I lied and told her I don't really remember that much about those days, and a few days don't really mean anything in my life. I never felt anything for her sister. This is the absolute truth, and that it was just a vacation thing that lasted for those days, etc. She seemed worried about emotional attachment, and I have none, and I'm certain that her sister will tell her the same. I don't know. I felt like a moron and like I hurt her, even if unintentionally. Like anything that I could say and do would be a mistake. Turns out to make things worse, the last 2 years they aren't having a great relationship since her sister divorced and moved back to their parents' house, and my girlfriend feels like her sister is manipulating their father against her. So now this kinda hit like a terrible blow, and she says her sister possibly expected me not to tell her, so she could keep the info to throw it at her at some point during a fight or anything. I don't really know her sister, so I don't know, but sounds like a very resentful and complicated person to deal with, at least at the moment. It's just so unfair overall, and again, I don't want to make this about me, but I feel like a villain. She said she will eventually talk to her sister, but not today because she's too upset, and I think it might be a good decision. As I was typing this at the office, I talked to her again on the phone, and she is going to stay in the apartment tonight, and I'm glad she accepted. So I'm gonna leave the office early and prepare some nice food for her and try to talk a bit more. Any advice is absolutely welcome, and thank you sincerely to the people that guided me here. Commodore says, continue with your relationship. Make her feel loved, cook for her, care more about the present than the past. If she asks too much, tell her you told her the truth because you're an honest person, but that it is in your past. Talk to her about the future, make plans, travel somewhere new for you both. The sister is not part of your relationship. Good luck, you did the right thing. Opie says, thanks mate, that's exactly the plan and the conclusion I reached while I was in the office earlier. If it turns out that she can deal with it and we remain together after this, I'm gonna make her happy. Opie responds to another thread saying, yeah, I will see how she's feeling tonight and we'll try to talk about how I feel about our relationship and our possible future and how happy she's been making me. Which will be all true. And I hope she sees my honesty and understands our future can be much bigger than something so small and remote. Maybe she can't, of course. I'd be so happy if she tries. Commodore says, this is definitely a difficult situation and might well end your relationship, which is only a few months old anyway. But the ending would not be because you did anything wrong back then or now. It'd be related to the relationship between the sisters. As others say, you definitely need to consider it closed on your end and not go into details, because nothing positive will come out of it. If it is something she can't let go, it will end your relationship. Opie says yes, and it's understandable. I just hope we can manage to surf the wave and leave it behind. A commenter was talking about how the girlfriend's questions being strange on what took place years ago, and OP says, I don't think it's that strange, especially when you just find out. She has insecurities and I have insecurities too. I understand the sudden questions, especially when she is just finding out, even if it took me a bit by surprise. People questioning, is it better that he lied about the sister being better or lied about not remembering the details, and was there great vibes between him and the sister at the time? Opie says I told her I don't remember details, and so it's all in the past for me, that it's a foggy memory. But I do remember a lot, so it's a lie. I'm not going to tell her all that, even if she breaks up with me over this. And no, her sister isn't better than her in absolutely anything. Opie also adds, yes, back then we had a great physical connection and we had a great vibe in terms of partying and being on a vacation, but that was it. There was not enough common ground to try and start building anything in real life. That's why it all faded away after that. And yes, I was basically a kid back then and I've grown and changed a lot since then, I promise you. A commenter says, do they not look alike? It is also her sister's fault not telling her once she saw you. Opie says they don't really look much alike, no, and also now her sister has completely different hairstyle compared to what she looked like back then, and dresses very differently, so no, I didn't recognize her in the pictures. And someone says, does Opie have any interest in the sister? What about her interest for him? Opie says I have absolutely no interest in her at all, and I believe it's the same for her. And it'd be interesting at some point in the future how that actually progresses, because there's obviously a lot of drama between the sisters already, and what happens when the sister approaches the other one and tells her that she knows about their previous fling or whatever it was. What happens then, and will the relationship continue? But regardless, I think Opie did absolutely the right thing in this situation, so good on them for that. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being here, and hopefully I'm going to see you in the next one. Take care, and much love, you cheeky so-and-so.